the British Purchasing Commission in New York City was on the search for potential new American-built fighter designs for the Royal Air Force during 1940. American Aviation in Dallas, Texas. We had the idea that potentially North American, which was still quite a new company at that point, albeit already building the Harvard trainer, one of which we'll see later in quantity for the RAF, could build the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk for the RAF under license. However, North American had other ideas. It came up with a design called the NA-73. That design, from initial conception to first flight before the end of 1940, wasn't quite as rapid in terms of the number of days involved as has sometimes been stated, but it was nonetheless astonishingly quick, and it produced a highly advanced A-36 as a ground attack and dive bomber platform to the Americans, in which role it was very successful. With the Allison V1710 engine, which also equipped most Curtiss P-40s. Very good engine for operations in the low-level role, but it rather ran out of puff at altitude, so this aircraft wasn't initially able to fulfill the potential that was certainly evident in the design as a high-altitude, long-range escort fighter. MERLIN. The Mustang was newly converted with a Rolls-Royce built MERLIN. Test flows at the Rolls-Royce factory airfield was up immediately. The transformation was clear. Rolls-Royce couldn't fulfill the sort of demand that was required though to produce the MERLINs for Mustang production on top of Spitfires, Mosquitoes, Lancasters and the like. So that was where Packard entered the story in the United States, like producing the MERLIN, and this was where the legend of the MERLIN Mustang was born. Powered versions like the P-51D that we see represented here that were the great long-range escort fighters for the US 8th Air Force in the European theatre and indeed for the US Army Air Forces out in the Pacific as well. jerk. That was the personal moniker applied.
Mustang is making its approach to land. You see that very curved fighter approach to the airfield. Well, if you imagine you're sat in the cockpit of a Mustang looking forward, you have very little forward visibility, especially when the aircraft comes into landing attitude and the nose gets higher and higher. Virtually no forward visibility, kind of like driving with your bonnet up. So many of these fighters make what we call the curved fighter approach, which is staying very tight to the runway, turning very tightly towards it, so you can at least keep sight of the runway for as long as possible, in this case out to the left-hand side.